What are the biggest mistakes that people make when trying to gain muscle? Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. I'm going to narrow it down to two big ones. All right, number one, simply not training hard enough. Okay, simply not training hard enough. That's going to be number one, and I'll discuss what I mean in a minute. And number two, having muscles that you don't work. Okay. That's going to be number two. That's going to be a big one. All right. So let's talk about the first one. People don't train hard enough often, and this is not my opinion. This has been researched in the lab. So a lot of times when people are trying to train, when they try to assess how close they are to failure, most people, the majority of people, including people with 3 or more years of experience in the lab, cannot actually accurately tell you how many reps they are from failure until they reach failure or they get 0 reps in reserve. So accordingly, people oftentimes think they train hard. They're like, well, I got an intense burn, right? I got an intense pump. But they're 4 reps from failure on every set, 5 reps from failure on every set. And in that case, you're simply going to get a suboptimal training stimulus. In fact, to the point where I've oftentimes said any of these studies that show these very high training volumes cause more muscle growth, it's almost always because they're not training hard enough on individual sets. And accordingly, they have to do a ton of volume to even get effective reps, right? Because it does seem fairly obvious, based upon what we can see, what we can measure. Reps that aren't within 5 reps of failure, in many cases, may not produce significant or much muscle growth. So accordingly, if you start thinking about it that way, how many quality reps do you get? Like we can look at what we know about the human body, and we can ascertain the closer you get to failure on any given set, the more the muscle growth is from that set. And in fact, it's even been postulated that a rep that is 1 rep from failure, actually that individual rep causes a larger stimulus than one that is, say, 3 or 4 reps from failure. Okay? They're not even equal in quality. So as you get closer to failure, we know that the set itself causes more muscle growth. Okay, and that 5 reps is just a loose guess. It is not based upon data. It's the effective rep theory people have thrown out there, but we do need to keep in mind it isn't really proven, by the way. It's almost an arbitrary number picked. But when we look at everything we know about the body, we do know that the closer you get to failure, the more muscle growth you're going to get from an individual set. Been observed in the real world, been observed in the lab. It just seems to be the case, and it makes sense. But we could also speculate that even those individual reps, the ones that are closer to failure, may actually cause a better stimulus, even on a rep-for-rep basis, not even the set for set. So people just don't train hard enough, or they think then they're training hard. Like, what do you mean? Look how much I'm swinging and cheating and grunting trying to get the last few reps. But all they're doing is breaking down form. Keeping in mind, if that's happening, the muscles themselves are not working as hard, they're working less hard. In other words, it's say you end up doing a 12 rep set, and the first 5 are strict, and then the last 7 you're swinging and cheating. You're actually, with that same weight, you're reducing load on the muscle. Okay? You're reducing load on the muscle. Now, if you get to muscle failure, it may end up being equal because you're just doing more reps. But you're not actually getting any benefit from it. And in many cases, it's letting people just cheat more, and then when the muscles cheating and other stuff become the weak link, they still don't get the best optimal stimulus. So they're not really training hard, they're just swinging and flopping around and making noise. Okay? Whereas in actually just maintaining stricter form and reaching muscle failure or deep fatigue that is very close to it, guess what? Probably going to cause more muscle growth. And you'll see through this video, some of the stuff I'm doing here is actual rest pause, meaning I've actually reached muscle failure, rest a few seconds, and try to bang out another strict rep or 2, right, without cheating. Okay, that was what we mean by training hard. That's probably about as hard as you're realistically going to train, and actually get anything productive out of it. All right, kind of a big deal here. So people just don't train hard enough. They think they do, or then they're like, well, I trained for 3 hours. Well, if you're training for 3 hours, you're going to have some crazy work capacity, or you're going to have to really sandbag early in the workout. So it's a good sign you may not be training that hard. Again, the set I just did there on the camera, that would be an example of, pretty hard set. All right, the other thing, leaving muscles off the table. If you're trying to gain muscle, you need to be training everything. And so therefore, if you're skipping major muscle groups, even if you're maximizing growth in the ones that you are training, you're gaining less muscle. So in other words, if you only train 80% of the muscles in your body with any significant work, see where I'm going? Well, the other 20% is just gains left on the table. You're reducing the amount of muscle you gain. And people get these ideas, well, I've seen this by many people. Well, if I just don't train this, then it'll give recovery to the other stuff. Yeah, at a systemic level, but localized, not really. You're not going to gain any more muscle from it. In other words, there is not one single solitary shred of evidence anywhere that would suggest that by skipping your legs, your biceps will grow faster. Now, I don't think that the other point is provable, but people have speculated that, just due to hormone release, that actually training your legs may make your arms actually grow faster. That's an old hypothesis. I don't personally adhere to that one, by the way. But it is a hypothesis that's been out there for a long time. It's something people talk about. Okay? And their argument is the various anabolic hormones that were released, the fact that you see systemic growth in the body, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to say that's actually probably all nonsense. But just pointing out there are people who believe that and promote that. So there's definitely a counter argument there. But just in general, your biceps are not going to grow faster just because you skip your legs. Yes, your central nervous system and everything and peripheral nervous system will probably recover a hair faster, but it's not going to affect the localized recovery or the localized work capacity that is causing the muscle growth. So again, any muscle that you leave untrained is simply less muscle that you're gaining, and you're not doing yourself any favors. Okay, it's not a case of, well, I can train this muscle twice as much if I skip these others. No, it's not going to benefit. It is not going to grow one drop faster by doing that. If anything, it's just going to promote you overtraining in that muscle, having overuse injuries, inflammation in your tendons, eventually all sorts of stuff. So again, leaving gains on the table. You're just simply choosing to gain less muscle. All right? That's not the best way to gain muscle. And it's hurting your overall progress if you do that. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.